welcome to this episode of the Gunman. So this video here is the first video I'm doing on the project of my VL Commodore. So most of my Australian viewers, I'm sure, are very familiar with exactly what these are, but I've got a lot of people that follow from America and Europe and stuff like that who may not be familiar with these cars. They are built in Australia under the name of Holden, which is owned by General Motors Corporation. So I'm just going to be giving you guys a bit of an overview, and I'm going to be taking you guys through some of the prime work, some of the mechanical work that we've done, and I'm going to do from start to finish video set on this car, similar to what I did with my XF Falcon. A lot of my viewers that were with me from the start have probably seen all of those videos as well. So it's not in the best way. It's got a bit of light hail damage on it. That hood or the bonnet doesn't really shut that nice. So since this video, I've actually fixed that. This footage here was taken about 6 months ago, not long after I got in my workshop. And as you can see here, even those rubbers that sit up the top of those suspension towers, they just totally just chewed out, and we had to replace them, but we got that done. We've got to do all the rubbers up underneath as well. When I actually initially got this car, it wasn't running at all, so I'll give you guys a quick listen to what it does when we tried to get it going. So as you can see, it was just cranking over, it wouldn't actually go for me. Since this initial part of the video, I have got it running. If you hang around to the end, you'll get to see it running. It ended up being the airflow meter, and there was also some dodgy wiring to the fuel tank as well. Had a mate of mine who's a mechanic come in and help us out. So there's a bit of rust around the windscreens, both front and rear. Also the boot floor's all rusted out. But what made me decide to buy this car, because it's a pretty awesome car, like it's a bit of a beast. It's got a nice body kit on it, got a nice boot spoiler, sill covers and stuff like that. It's got a turbo engine in it. The engine is a 6-cylinder Nissan engine. RB30 is the engine, RB30E, so it's a EFI. And then the turbo, it's a plus T, which means that the turbo is being put on aftermarket. Although these cars did come out, not this exact car of mine, mine's a SL, some of the Calais and Bellinas, I believe, came out in turbo models as well. And I think they also brought out some V8s in it as well. These cars also raced in the Australian Touring Car Championship, raced by a very famous driver, Peter Brock, who's since passed away. So it's even got these Walkinshaw wheels on it, so even just this set of wheels, they're probably, you know, you might be able to fetch up to $1,000 by the time I clean them up. And yeah, it's an aero front bumper bar, and yeah, someone's just done some dodgy stuff with it and just put some big bolts through there. It's got the Calais front on it. It's also got the Calais boot lid, and I'm going to get the Calais tail light surrounds as well. So I'm going to give you guys a bit of a look at some of the repairs I'm doing, and I'm just taking you guys through the video as I went. So all my footage, I just put it into a folder and I put it into this video as it in numerical order, basically. So I might jump from here to there, but that's just the process that I've done to get this car done. So as you can see, we pulled the rear bumper bar off, and yeah, there's a bit of sort of rough stuff around those edges. I also ended up skim filling it, just filling it up with bog, any highs and low spots I've ended up fixing. So I sort of want to make this this is going to be my masterpiece, basically. I'm going to do a lot better of a paint job than what I did on the XF. The XF was really just a one weekend quick paint job, whereas this one I'm going to take that little bit more time on it and get it polished up really nice. It's getting painted in a colour called Panorama Silver. If you guys hang around to the end, you'll see that I've actually already painted the boot lid. I painted that last week. Some of my followers on Facebook and Instagram have most likely already seen those photos that I've been posting up. So you might have noticed that there was a few cracks in this fiberglass rear wing here, rear boot spoiler. So I've just got some 80 grit on the Orbital sander here, and I'm just sanding it back till I can no longer see any of those cracks, and then I'm going to be putting some fine filler in there. This spoiler here, I've heard, is probably worth around $500 just by itself, because it's a genuine HDT spoiler. It's got a little stamp in it, so yeah, I mean, it does need a lot of work to this car, but I'm happy to do it. As I say, it's a bit of a project for me, and I'm having a bit of fun doing it. The boot floor on this thing has absolutely rusted out, and there's just big, massive holes in it too. So it was actually just this morning I went down to Rare Spares, and I was able to find a brand new rust repair section for the boot floor. So I'm going to have to pull that drop tank out and then get stuck into that in the next couple of weeks. All I've been doing lately, I've just been staying back for an extra hour, so I've just been doing, say, 8 till 4 o'clock on customers' cars, and, you know, if I get to work at, say, 6:45, I'll spend an hour on my own VL, and then I'll spend another hour and a half after hours on it as well. So it looks like whoever put this boot spoiler on originally has actually just gone through a little bit too far when they were drilling and screwing. So that's what I'm doing here, just on these edges. There's a couple of little repairs. I'm just sanding them back and just putting some body filler in there. I decided it wasn't worth using any fiberglass on this one, just on those two spots. Just a bit of bog's going to do the job just fine. So first up, what you see me using here, this is actually just normal rough filler. It's Bondo, you know, it's not the fine filler, but over the top of this I'm going to be putting some fine filler, which will it doesn't have so many pinholes and stuff in it, whereas if you just put this on, you usually left with a few pinholes. And I actually specifically bought a can of the Worth fine filler, which is my favourite fine filler. It's very little amount of pinholes in it, and I've never really had much shrink back with it as well. So there you go. That's the body filler in. And then I'm going to, while that was drying, I ended up going onto the bumper bar. So that's, as I was saying before, you're going to be jumping around a little bit between the jobs, but that's just because it's the way I did it. So you can see here, it was actually, when it came off the back of the tow truck, it was so low, should have used some planks, but it scraped that rear bumper bar. Not to worry, not really a big job to fix. I'd never done any fiberglass repairs prior to doing this, so my business partner, he'd done a bit of it before, and I said, mate, just show us how to do it. So there you go, Gunman doesn't know everything. Another thing I've been thinking about lately, you know, you get some discussion and stuff like that, and you know, I don't believe I'm the best painter in the world, but am I better than what I was a year ago? Absolutely, I think I am better. Am I better than what I was a month ago? I believe I am. I believe I'm constantly getting better at my trade, and you never stop learning in this trade. There's always new technologies, even just new ways to go about the job, and it's been really good to get a lot of you guys making comments, and even a lot of what you guys have said has taught me some different ways and just a couple of different methods and stuff like that, so it's always good to learn. And to be honest, I nearly enjoy just doing a car up and just admiring the car as much as I do driving it, you know. Like, I'm happy to drive that little Toyota Echo that you guys seen me do up last time, you know. It's cheap on the fuel, but I really am, in saying that, I really am looking forward to driving this thing around every day. It's a 5-speed manual turbo, as I said before. I think they get about 200 to 220 horsepower out of them, and pretty solid motor from what I hear. Everyone's said some good reports about them. They're a straight 6 motor, but as I say, check out that wiki link, which I've included in the description if you want to know more about them. And even just Google search VL Commodore, there's some really nice VL Commodores out there. But yeah, all I'm doing here is just hitting it with some 80 grit, just getting down the most of the high spots, and just roughing it up, so there's going to be something for my fiberglass to stick to. And as you can see inside here, they've had about 3 or 4 shots at getting those screws in the bumper bar, but I'm just going to fiberglass it back up, and hopefully I'll get mine in the right spot first shot. So yeah, as I said, this is my first shot actually doing fiberglassing, so I just read the instructions when all else fails. So all you do is you go 100 grams to, I think it was about 2.5 to 3 grams of the catalyst, so it's really not much of the catalyst at all, the hardener. It's a polyester fiberglass resin, this one, and then we've also got the sheets that came with it. This is just a Diggers brand. It came from the Masters, or you can probably just get it from Bunnings. We ended up finding just a local hardware store had the cheapest around. I mean, if you're doing bulk work, you might want to go and see if you can get a specific fiberglass stockist, but for us, we're not doing too much fiberglassing, and goes a fair way. So next up, just take it down there, got my little brush, and just grab that brush and just stir it up, obviously. Depending on the temperature, it's going to dry, obviously, a bit quicker in the warmer months than what it will in the winter. You may want to just go a touch less hardener when it's a bit warmer. I really should be wearing a respirator there. I really should be wearing gloves as well. And I do recommend, if you guys are to do it, obviously wear your PPE. And since making this kind of stuff, yeah, I always at least wear gloves. Sometimes I don't wear a respirator. I'm just a bit lazy. I know I should, however, so there you go. I'm just wiping it, just brushing it over the affected area, which I've already given a good clean down. I just got the little grinder, the mini grinder, and just ground it back so there was no dirt, and it's going to give it something to bite into. You can also see on those edges we put a bit of the aluminium tape, so it's going to stop all that resin and the fiberglass matting from just falling away from obviously gravity taking effect, and it doesn't need to necessarily be that aluminium tape. Any masking tape would do the job, and then just when it's dry you just peel it off. So you can see I brushed it on first, put the mat down, then brushed a little bit more on. Now my business partner Dan, he said what he's been taught with this stuff is you want sort of more matting than resin. So you don't want to put too much resin on because it'll actually make it go a bit more brittle, whereas the matting has a bit of flex in it. So as you can see now, while that's drying, I've come back over to the boot spoiler. So that's obviously dry now. I'm just starting off just by giving it a bit of a buzz down with some 120 grit. I didn't want to hit it with sort of 80 grit because sometimes it can just bite into the previous paint a bit too hard. And then just again with this small block, just a bit of 120 strapped onto it, and just giving it a good block down until I'm happy that there's no more highs and lows in it, or I've just got it to somewhere where I think that primer will fix the rest. I don't usually block bumper bars as a rule of thumb. I never usually do, but just in this instance I really just want it to come up real nice. So as you can see, I just finished blocking it out until I was happy. That took 5 minutes. I just did cut some of that footage out just to stop the vid from getting too long again. And what I'm doing here is just a piece of 180 grit. It's not too coarse. It's a good grade of sandpaper I find to prime over and to finish your repairs off. So it's not too fine. If you start going, say, with 240 grit over your repairs, you can end up actually making it worse because it's too fine. So yeah, 180 is a good one to finish off with. Sometimes I'll go over 120 over filler, but it's probably on the, just on the borderline of being a bit too coarse. So there you go, a bit more fiberglass back into this bumper bar on the inside. So I let the two end parts dry out while I was sanding the boot spoiler, and again, now I've got more filler drying, that fine filler that I put in after. And when that's drying, I've come back over to the bumper bar and I'm fixing these other couple of spots. So again, make sure I did my prep work, just got that little grinder, cleaned it right up, and just laying some mats in. And yeah, it ended up putting a great amount of strength back into it. And for someone who'd never done any fiberglass repairs, I'm getting quite good at it. I think I'm very happy with the results I'm able to get with it. But it is very important to get that prep right, and don't jump the gun when it comes to sanding it out. Just leave it overnight. You're better off just leaving it overnight rather than trying to sand it too early, and then it's going to be a bit wet and it might start peeling back up. So there you go. Again, just don't forget, you don't want to go and put too much of it in, too much of the resin in, or else it'll get rigid and it will be prone to crack. So I did end up actually reapplying again over these corner pieces, so you can just keep building it up layer by layer as you like. So we kicked we cut the front windscreen out. We kicked the rear windscreen out because it's not urethaned in. And as you see there, my mate, he's given it a grind back for us. It's pretty cool. Having my own shop, we just both get in there, help each other out on each other's jobs. He's got a 76, I think it is, Celica that he's doing a similar. He's probably actually going a little bit further with his one. He's gutted the entire car barrier, and he's paint stripped it. He's going to take it down to the sandblasters. He's going to pull the engine out, and he's just going to make it his showpiece, his masterpiece. So there you go. As you see, while I was putting that fiberglass in, the rear wing or the boot spoiler has dried out, ready for me to finish sanding. So we've removed all of those low spots in it and got something that I'm pretty happy with, and we'll be taking it into the booth, give it a good few coats of primer. And what you're about to see me get into next up was the suspension tower rubbers. They were a bit of a prick of a job, but my mate, my business partner, he's actually an aircraft engineer and a spray painter. He's a Kiwi guy, really good guy to work with, and he's pretty switched on as far as mechanical stuff goes. Without him, I really would have struggled doing this job. It was, it's dirty, and it's just a bastard of a job, basically. It's good, actually very handy having this hoist as well. It would have been a bit of a, tough ass to do on your jack stands and stuff like that. So hang around for a few more minutes and you'll be able to see that I've actually got these new ones back in. Might have to take it down to the wheel aligners and all that kind of stuff in the future, and they might have some adjustments. But next up, I'm just going to do a little bit of work on my front bumper bar. I did start on this, and then I just sort of got real busy, and I went to Thailand, and it just basically, this car just sat in this corner of the workshop for a good 3 or 4 months. Just forgot about it nearly, and then I come back to it just recently in the last couple of weeks. I just thought, you know what, I may as well just get stuck into it. It's not going to do itself. So I'm just cleaning up, just a few bits on the inside of that bumper bar. And next up, what you're going to see me do, this rust converter is amazing stuff. I very highly recommend using it if you do have any rust repairs to do, but you really must observe your drying time, because it's a water-based product. It does take quite a long time to evaporate out. Obviously, weather's going to depend on that, but even right up to the 24 hours in winter might not even be enough, so you may actually need to get some heat onto it, because if you don't, like I've done it before, I've used this stuff on some parts and it's still been just a touch sticky, and I thought, I'll just go and just get some primer onto it a little bit too early, and it will actually fry up, because all that water-based stuff underneath is trying to still come out. So what I actually did, it ended up working out probably well that I put this stuff on, and it's just sat there for months, so I just put heaps of it on, loaded it on, and it is very amazing stuff. I do highly recommend it, but just read the instructions and follow those instructions. So there you go. With the rear bumper bar, I filled it up as well. I took, a good few hours. I'm not in any real hurry with this, because I'm in my own workshop, and I just want to make it look nice, so you can see like there was all ripply and stuff like that previously on that rear bar, but I did skip out all the footage for that rear bumper bar. The primer that I ended up using on this, we ended up using a bit of Valspar, and from memory it was a 3-to-1 primer. Went on nice and thick, just a good 4 coats over it, and as you can see, they're looking quite nice in primer. These parts have basically, I primed them up, and then they've just been thrown on top of my booth, and they're just getting stored up the top. So here's the front bumper bar. Again, I skipped out most of the footage for that, just sometimes I just can't be bothered recording, and that's as simple as it is. I've got so much footage already, but there you go, you can see the repairs I did. All these corners needed fiberglassing. I fiberglassed those couple of holes up where they put those bolts through as well, and we're going to try and mount it properly. I also repaired the guards up, and as you'll see, I'm not paint stripping it. I don't want to go crazy on it, like it's not a full restoration. I'm just going over the top, and that's why I did decide to use that fine filler. So if you're going to put body filler over paint, you really don't want to just put the rough bog. It's not recommended. You can do it. I mean, I don't know how long it's going to last. That's why I'm using that fine filler. You can see it's a lighter colour there. And I just included this because this is where the car sat for about 3 or 4 months. It was on the hoist, as you'll remember from before. Someone else needed the hoist, and then we got this chassis machine fixed. Anyone who's watched my workshop tour will probably remember that I mentioned that the pump on this wasn't working when we first got in there, so we got that fixed. It was only quite cheap, about $500. Mounted it back on, and we've got that workable space there. Look, to be honest, we don't really use it as any chassis machine. We just use it as a bit of storage. So there you can see there's the bumper bar up there, and the guards are in primer in there up the top over the other side. That's what I was showing you just then. Front bumper bar here is all been sanded down, ready for paint, but I'm just going to leave it like that for now until it's all ready to go back together. I'll paint it all up and then get it all put back on, so I don't have painted parts just sitting all over the workshop. And there you go with the sill covers that have also been primed and repaired too. So there's a bit of a quick look around the workshop as well. There's my paint system, which has been going quite nice. As you can see, it was a bit of a mess there, but all that means is that we're too busy to clean up. So here I've got it off the chassis machine, and there's the boot floor. It's all rusted out, but I'm sure it's not going to be too big of a job to fix. We'll just drop that tank out, cut it out, and weld the new section in. So I'm going to give you guys a listen to the engine next up. It has got a bit of a misfire in the engine, which I'm not 100% sure exactly what that is at this point, but hopefully my mechanic mate will be able to figure it out for us without too much trouble. It's probably just a few people who said, distributor. We've had the distributor off, we've changed the leads, changed the plugs out, and yeah, I don't know exactly what I'm not a mechanic, but I get the basic idea of how an engine works, and I can undo and do up bolts, but as far as diagnosis goes, I'm not really the man to come and see. If you want your car painted, I'm the one to ask. But there you go, I'll give it a bit of a rev up for you. What it ended up being to stop it from running, as I said before, it was that airflow meter. That cost me $190. I'm not sure whether or not I'm actually going to put this bonnet scoop on either. I bought it, and yeah, I think I might just leave it off. I think it could be a little bit too over the top. It wasn't actually put on this model, it was more on the Group A, which was the race car in the Touring Car Championships. Put a new battery in there, changed the oil and water, it's oil and coolant. Yeah, you can hear that turbo starting to wind up, but until I get it running like something that I'm happy with, and yeah, I'm not going to go and over rev it, and possibly causing more damage to it. So here's the boot floor that I was telling you guys about before. Went down to Rare Spares, picked it up, $200 was my trade price. And yeah, now next up I just got to pull that drop tank out, which as you can see here, it's actually, yeah, it's that fake drop tank. It is a drop tank, but it's just sort of the back half of it's just for show. And it does look cool. And I'm going to finish off with just a few pics of the car prior to me starting any work on it. And at the very end, I'm going to show you guys the boot lid, which I've already painted. I sort of, yeah, just wanted, as I said before, I just wanted to get some colour onto it, so you can see it's, the interior does need a little bit of work to it. It's, it's not the best, but not looking for, miracles out of it. I'm not looking to win any concourse car shows or anything like that. Just want a mad looking street car, and I'm sure I'll get it. So I actually bought this car from Melbourne and got it shipped over, because as you can see in these photos, it does look pretty nice. But as you get that little bit closer, there is a lot of work that needed to be done to it. I didn't quite realise what I was in for, but I don't regret it in saying that. It's all been a bit of fun, and I've really only just scratched the surface. So there you go, there's the boot lid. I painted that with my brand new Starterjet 5000B RP 1.3mm, and that thing absolutely smashes the clear on. I got a little bit of solvent pop in that, so I actually had to polish it up. So next video is going to be just that boot lid getting painted, polished and repaired. So there you go. If you haven't already seen them, check out these couple of videos. They're on my previous project car, which is my XF turned into a tribute race car. So thanks for watching. This has been another Gunman production. Goodbye.